check out what has just arrived. I think it might be my book, Slice of Pie. Yes, it is. So I sent these off last week. And I started worrying about the back actually, because I got the back in white, but I wasn't sure where the spine would get to with the blue, but I think that's just about okay. So my auntie made the artwork and took me ages to work out how to make this work for Lulu's printing thing. I didn't realise there's kind of a slight crease along there that I didn't realise. So on the front, it kind of runs through the T on the. I was slightly worried about if it would look centred because it was difficult to gauge. The template they give you doesn't really work. It's just a blank canvas and you have to keep saving it and then checking against the lines and the not the watermark, like the lines and the bleed boundaries and stuff like that. So his tail has been chopped off because that must be the bleed bit that I didn't really fully understand. They feel kind of rubbery almost. It's a really weird texture. It's not embossed or anything. Look at that. I meant to change that. On the front it says the first 3,141 digits of pi and how to memorize them. But on the inside it just says 3,141 digits of pi and how to memorize them. I dropped the first bit from there, which is a bit annoying, but maybe for the next run. All the copyright stuff. Hopefully I've got that right. Although normally that sort of thing would be on the left-hand page, but okay. Dedication to Louis, Alfred and Maria. I love you to the end of pi and beyond. They like the whole Buzz Lightyear thing of to infinity and beyond, but obviously this is pi, which goes on forever. Thank Eva for the artwork. Not this artwork, that's next. I would also like to thank Jan for the cover artwork. But Eva for the artwork and proofreading. So the artwork on the inside, there's a Viking story for learning the alphabet. So she did that. That's if you want to learn the alphabet backwards. And was there another? Maybe that was it. Oh, this is going to be so useful now, because when I'm memorising pi, sorry, I'm tooting my own horn about my own book, but on the first, so what day of the month is it today? The 4th, I think. So on the 4th, I can memorise page 4, which is N to Y, digits 305 to 400. And if I can't remember what the code is for each line, I can go to page 104. And there's the digits again, but with all of my notes. So this is digits 305 to 400 as well. But now I know that it's meant to be on the balcony. Everything's happening in the balcony of N to Y. So Nando's, the Odeon, the post office, but on the balcony. I know that everything's happening with Thor because it's page 4, Thor 4. So Nando's balcony is Will and Grace, WG 87, sneezing, SZ, it's usually SS for 0, but zeros can be Z or S, so sneezing is 00, on Thor's fluffy, FF 66, safe 06, SF. So Will and Grace sneezing on Thor's fluffy safe, because it's page 4, on the balcony of Nando's. So I can just check it against here, or I can just stay on page 4 and see if I can work it out for myself. So I go, oh yeah, I think that's 87 Will and Grace, 00 sneezing, 66 must be fluffy, 06 safe. Oh yeah, it was Will and Grace sneezing on Thor's fluffy safe at Nando's. And I just know that it's the balcony because it's the second time around the Memory Palace. So then I've got the Memory Palace somewhere in here. here. So I've got a picture of my own memory palace, so I can remember where to go next, or remind myself where to go next. So from the airport to the bank to the casino, then the dentist, the estate agent for E, F for funeral service, G for garage, H for hotel, and just keep going until I get to Y for Yo Sushi. The only slightly annoying thing is, because books start, I wonder how much this is going to annoy me. Books start on the right-hand page for page 1. So page 1 is 3 points, which doesn't count for the digits, like the number of digits you memorise. It's everything after the decimal point. So 1, 4 are the first couple of digits of pi. But because this starts on a right-hand page, ideally I'd like it to be page 1 and page 2 here, because then I would have A to N there, and then, sorry, A to M there, and then N to Y there. So you would have the whole 200 digits on a double spread. But instead I've got A to M there, and then you turn over for page 2, and then that's the rest of the 200 digits. But I tend to only memorise 100 or so a day. So it's not exactly 100 on each page, because it's 8 times 13, so 104. And then 8 times 12 for the next 12 letters of the alphabet is 105 to 200. So 96 numbers there. 96 there, 104 on page 1, and that makes up your 200. Because 200 times, no, because 8 times 25 is 200. I can't believe, oh, it doesn't have that new book smell. And it's thicker than my old book. My old book was half this because it didn't have the actual digits of pi. It just had all my notes on how to memorise pi. And I've got my little picture of a swimming pool, which is 1 metre across, but it would be 3.14 metres around for how I explain what pi is. But first, what is pi? It is the ratio, or maybe that should say it's the ratio of a circle's circumference, the distance around a circle, divided by its diameter, the distance straight across the middle of that circle. The distance around is always just over 3 times longer than going straight across. So 3.141592653589 around. Pi records, the world record for reciting pi. Oh no, I didn't put capital P for that pi. Everywhere else I put capital P, I think. No. The world record for reciting pi from memory, according to this website, is 70,030 digits in 2015. The record for reciting pi while juggling, which is the one I'm really keen on, is 9,778 by a Swede called Mats Bergsten in 2005. I believe he'd memorised 10,000, but I think he dropped one of the juggling balls when he got to 9,778. My record while juggling was 600 digits as of 2019, although I aim to extend that one day. So I'm hoping I can juggle and say 3,141 digits of pi. Then you've got pi, 32 pages of pi. It says here what we've got actually in the contents. So a preface, a little introduction about, what pi is and the stuff I just said, how the book works, so why it's the first 32 pages, how I revise each page on each day of the month. So on the 18th of every month, I revise page 18. The highlighted numbers indicate a date. So on my computer, in the colour copy, it's yellow, but on here it's quite faint. But you can see the 23rd of August, they're just highlighted in grey slightly. So it's got any birthdays that come up in the first 3,141 digits of pi. What's next? An introduction on page 33. So I have actually given you the first 3,200, but I've grayed out all of the digits from 3,142 to 3,200 because the title is 3,141 because of the whole 3.14. And where you put a comma before every 3 digits, working backwards on a big number, like 1 million is 1, comma 000, comma 000. I've worked backwards, and so there's a little comma where it's 3,141. So it almost looks like 3.141. I was particularly proud of that. So then from page 33, you've got, I won't lie, memorising over 3,000 random digits does require a fair amount of training and practice, but I give you all of my training tips in here, and my systems and techniques. Don't get disheartened, a little pep talk there. How I began my obsession with memory stunts. So first it was when I got into magic. I realised there's a few kind of memory looking stunts that you can do with magic techniques. With card tricks, you can use tricks to make it look like you've memorised a deck of cards. But then I wanted to do it for real. So I developed my own system, which is a twist on existing systems for memorising a shuffled deck of cards. And then I used that system to memorise numbers. So there's 52 playing cards. I made a system for each card, or a person and a picture and stuff for each card. And then for numbers, I wanted a picture or a person for every 2-digit number. So I already had 1 to 52. So then I just needed 00. I treated 1 to 9 as 01 to 09. So 01, 02, 03. And then from 53 to 99, I had to make up mental pictures for all of those numbers. Then the story, then we have some story. So a short story, chapter 2, 2 short stories. So story 1 is kind of my attempt at the old-fashioned standard method with no extra bits. And then story 2 is more like how I actually visualize things. And the idea is to show you that story 1 is kind of lacking a bit, and I struggle to memorize that as well. And the memory palace isn't as systematized, I don't think. And then story 2 has my alphabetical memory palace and adjectives to describe things better. Or, to use your system to involve adjectives, so you get an extra card or 2-digit number for the same mental picture. It's all explained in here though. Then there's a very brief history of how I believe memory started. So like how memory palaces first came to be used. Then I go away from the whole pi and numbers thing and memorising cards, and I've got a chapter about how to memorise the alphabet backwards. I've called it chapter 4, the alphabet. I should have said the alphabet backwards, but okay. How quickly can you count up to 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know how quick that was, a second or two. How quickly can you count down from 10 to 1? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I messed that up a bit, but a similar speed, I think, from going from 1 to 10 or 10 down to 1. How quickly can you say the alphabet forwards? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Don't know, like 4 seconds or so. How quickly can you say the alphabet backwards? This is where I think some people will stumble a bit, but I'll give it a go. Z, Y, X, W, V, U, T, S, R, Q, P, O, N, M, L, K, J, H, G, F, E, D, C, B, A. Hopefully that was similar to going forwards. From J to A, if that's easier. J, I, H, G, F, E, D, C, B, A. That was a bit faster. It's probably not for most people. I'm using the system I teach here, which is weird, isn't it? We learn the alphabet forwards at such a young age that it seems odd to get stumped by the challenge of simply saying it backwards instead of forwards. That's true. Then I talk about how ridiculous it would be to kind of label each letter as a number to try and make that easier. So if you knew that A was 1 and B was 2 and C was 3 up to J being 10, then surely then you could say J, I, H, G, F, E, D, C, B, A quicker, because it would be like counting down from 10 to 1, which you can say quickly. Hopefully that makes sense. And then I talk you through the story, the Viking story. The following comic will reinforce the story of how to memorize the alphabet backwards. So we've got the story here of a Viking called ZY, or if you're American, ZY. So ZY, he's an ex-warrior, XW. Now all he does is look after cute baby alligators, which will be CBA as the final 3 letters when you're saying it backwards. What's our coupon for? He says to his wife. What's our coupon for? VUTS, R, our, R. Coupon, QPON, for. What's our coupon for? So that's how you remember VUTS, R, QPON. So far you've got ZY, XW for ex-warrior, VUTS, VUTS, R, coupon, QPON, She says milk jugs, but she doesn't pronounce the I in milk, so it's just all the consonants. Milk jugs, MLK. And jugs in Viking was spelt Jihg, according to me, and this made-up story. So milk jugs, or milk jug, I guess not the S, because you've already said the S. So we've got ZYXW, VUTS, VUTS, R, coupon, QPON, milk, MLK, jugs, jigs, yes, JIHG. ZY took his coupon to the supermarket and bought some milk jugs. Yeah. ZY fed, FED, each cute baby alligator a jug of milk, CBA. So ZYXW, VUTS, R, QPON, MLK, JIHG, FED, CBA. That's the alphabet backwards using this story. I described the story in more detail just beforehand. Chapter 5, memory systems. The goal of memorizing a shuffled deck of cards in a few minutes is where my journey into memory sports began. So I talk about how to convert. The two parts of deck memorization are the same as memorizing numbers. Number one, converting the cards or digits into meaningful, preferably visual images. Don't get too hung up on visual, because I don't actually visualize my images, and some other people have said that they don't either, but it's just having that code written out. So what did we say earlier for the first line? Sorry, it was page 104, wasn't it? I was talking about earlier. Will and Grace sneezing on Thor's fluffy safe. I'm not actually picturing being in Nando's on the balcony watching Will and Grace sneezing on Thor's fluffy safe. I can't see Thor or a fluffy safe. I just know the word fluffy is for the safe in this case. So I just remember the words. Will and Grace sneezing on a fluffy safe, on Thor's fluffy safe for page 4, on the balcony, because it's the second time around. So first it's the attic for A. So I use I use the alphabet twice. So first to go from the airport to Yo Sushi, but then also within each place, first we go to the attic of each place. So page 1 and 2 is the attic of the airport, the beach, the cafe, up to Yo Sushi. Then page 3 and 4 is again the airport, the beach, the cafe to Yo Sushi, but this time we're on the balcony each time. Then we're in the corner of each one. The corner of the airport is Charlie Chaplin, 3-3, Slapping, 0-5, SP, Great British, GB, 7-2, Grass, 7-0, because it's GS. So Great British was GB, 7-2, and then Grass is 7-0, so G again, because G is 7 in my system, and S for 0. I think I'm jumping ahead here. So number 1 was converting cards or digits into meaningful images. So for me it's more meaningful, but for some people it should be visual, like highly visual is the idea, even if you don't end up actually visualizing it. Then number 2, then storing the images somewhere, preferably along a journey so you can remember the order. So the whole point of the journey method, or is it the loci or loci? I think it's LOCI. Loci, loci, I don't know how people pronounce it. But it's a location method. I think that's the same as a memory palace. So you either, there's a bit of confusion, at least for me, if it's a journey or a palace or a route around something or a route along a journey. For me, it's an alphabetical journey through my invented city. So a memory palace for me means it's probably somewhere inside, like in your house is the original. I think I talk about in here, especially in that story 1, which was chapter 2, wasn't it? A couple of stories. Chapter 1 introduction. Yeah, chapter 2 short stories. Story 1 was your bog standard memory palace around a house. I think it's my mum's house I was imagining, because when I originally wrote this up I was staying at my mum's house. So you've got the coffee table, the TV, lampshade, and then we leave the living room. Oh, sorry, desk. So there was like 4 or 5 places in her living room. In her dining room. Then we went into the living room. Then the kitchen. Out of the kitchen into the dining room. We leave the living room. So first it was the living room. then across to the dining room. So in her house, you've got the living room, then the dining room opposite, and then into the kitchen. The kitchen is kind of next to the dining room in her house. Then we go upstairs into the bathroom, and we find Stephen Fry groaning about his Weetabix in the bath. So he used the bath in the bathroom. But my problem was, which is how I came up with the alphabetical memory, the alphabetical city, my problem was that if I'm in my mum's living room, I know memory competitors and champions, memory athletes, I guess they're called. I know they've fully got their head around how to just use any old room or house or the school they went to, and they just know that first it's the coffee table, then it's the TV, then it's the lampshade, then it's a desk or whatever. I think I say in here you're meant to do 5. I've heard before you should do 5, and then every 5th place you leave and go to a different room, because then you can keep track of bunches of 5. So I know that there's going to be 5 places in here, and then I go to the next room and do 5 places in there, so that I know that after 2 rooms, that's 10 playing cards, or 10 sets of 2-digit numbers, so a 20-digit number, I guess. So I could store a 10-digit number in here, then a 10-digit number in the next room. And I know people have got their head around that, but my problem always was, I went to review it, and in my head I was thinking, did I start at the lampshade, or was I watching TV? Oh no, sorry, it was the coffee table. And I was trying to think, like, I don't know. And then sometimes we would move our coffee table for fun to a different part of the room. And I started getting really confused about, what did I say first? I can't remember if I was working at my desk and it happened. A desk is kind of like a coffee table, so was I actually on the coffee table, or I didn't give it long enough to get my head around, I guess. I know a lot of people have. I just remembered I put a little pie on the spine there to match the pie that the tiger's holding. So that's when I came up with the city. I thought, if I start at the airport, I know it's the airport because it's A, or I know it's somewhere with A. And then if I go next to somewhere with B, I know it's got to be B. So it must be, in my case, the bank. And then it's got to be somewhere with C, which is the casino. And if I'm going backwards, I know before the casino must have been the place beginning with B. So because I'd already kind of got used to doing the alphabet forwards and backwards, which is why chapter 4 is the alphabet, it just made sense to me to create an alphabetical system. So I knew that if I'm at the hotel, I know that the place before that must be G for garage, and the place after that must be I for IKEA. So I can't get lost, because I know that it must be that letter, because the alphabet's already set up. So for me, that was... but actually, no, sorry. So that's the Memory Palace chapter, actually. That's much later. Sorry, that's like chapter 7, Memory Palaces. Memory systems we're talking about. So I think this is where I start talking about, the PAO system, so person, action, object. So for each card, you would have a person, like James Bond, doing an action like shooting with an object like a gun. PAO. It's a really old system. Everybody who's into memory has heard of, using a person, action, and object. And because you're meant to make it highly visual, you don't just imagine any old gun. You try to imagine like a smoking hot gun or something. So then I thought, well, hang on, if I'm using an adjective to describe the object, I may as well make the adjective into its own number for each number. So if I want to remember the number 15, then if you're doing person, action, object, then it would be Rosa Parks, because for me 15 is RP, so Rosa Parks, ripping RP, a rope RP. But then if you want, so that's for a 6-digit number, you could do that. Like if you had to remember 15, 15, 15, you could remember Rosa Parks ripping a rope. Or if you wanted to remember 141592, then you would remember the person for 14, Roll Doll, RD, ripping for 15, Rosa Parks, RP, 92, the object is notebook for NB, 92 is NB, so Roll Doll ripping a notebook is 141592. So that's for a 6-digit number using the person, action, object system. But I thought, what if you throw in an adjective? Then you've got Roll Doll for 15, ripping for Rosa Parks, and then instead of notebook, you make an adjective for NB, 92. So for me, that's nimble, NB. So now it's Roll Doll ripping a nimble, and then the object for the next 2 letters. So now I can do an 8-digit number. So 65 is next. 1415925. So that's FP, which is for me a fireman's pole. So somehow Roald Dahl is ripping a nimble fireman's pole. Nimble isn't ideal, but it's kind of so not ideal that it's memorable for me. Like describing certain objects like a fireman's pole as nimble, for me that sticks because it's quite weird and unusual. So I called that a PAAO system, PAAO, because now it's person, action, adjective, object. So I talk about that. Then the alphabetical system, but that's the system I didn't end up actually using. This is what I wrote up in 2017, but I then went on to a much better alphabetical system, because I then found out about the Dominic system, which is about Dominic O'Brien, the 8-time world memory champion. So he has the Dominic system, which is mainly for memorizing people. So there you've got 0 is an O, because a 0 looks like an O. A1, B2, C3, D4, E5, so that's all just following the alphabet. S6, because 6 starts with an S. G7, 8 is H, because that follows the alphabet. G is the 7th letter of the alphabet. H is the 8th letter of the alphabet. And then 9 is N, because 9 starts with an N and has an N in the middle. So N9. So then you memorize that for people. So for him, 1-4, the first 2 digits of pi, would be AD. Can't remember who I had for AD. I don't know, because I changed it to RD, because I then found out about the major system, which doesn't use any vowels. So I had to replace 0 being an O, and A being a 1, and E being a 5, 5 being an E, because I didn't want any vowels, because it's fine for people to start with vowels, but when you get to actions, objects, and actions, adjectives and objects, you don't want vowels because you put the vowels in. So like rope is RP, but it's ROPE, so I ignore the vowels and focus just on RP. Nimble is a bit different because it has an M and an L in it, but for me M and L are not in my system, so I just focus on the N and the B, and then there's a couple of vowels in there. So I went to a consonant only system, but I didn't know about the major system. So I do write up the major system here and give you the code for that. So 0 is S or Z or a soft C. And I kept the S, actually, because I couldn't use the O. But I don't think I have none of my other ones match the major system. But a lot of mine do match the Dominic system because I'd already been using the Dominic system. So I just had to replace the vowels. And I changed 8 being H to a W because I found it really hard to come up with enough actions, adjectives, and objects with H. So I switched to a W because WH, like who, what, where, when, why. We know that WH is a thing that goes together. But anyway, I talk about the major system. Then I tell you about choosing your own system. I've got the Dominic system, the major system, and my system here. I feel a bit arrogant calling it my system, but I just mean that I've kind of amalgamated bits from, so the 0 from the major system, most of the Dominic system, and then how I've changed the vowels into consonants, and then that's my system. Usually I call it the PAAO system to make it sound like I'm not just saying my system, because everyone's heard of the PAO system, so to say the PAAO system sounds like it might be an official thing. It sounds less kind of obnoxious and arrogant and it's just about me, because I feel like other people may have come up with this. I do mention somewhere that I saw recently that somebody was using emotions as well, so they would have person, action, emotion, object, or I don't know where the emotion came in there, but they thought of 00 to 99, so 100 different emotions that follow some kind of alphabetical system. Probably the major system. Most people use the major system. So then, because I give you I give you some suggestions for Chapter 6 PAAO suggestions. If you're not using the alphabetical system, I give you suggestions for some actions, some adjectives, because it took me ages to come up with them, and some objects. But then I give you my PAAOs in order from 00 to 99. So this has them in the actual order I use, which is a 0 is an S and a 1 is an R. So Seth Rogen, shearing, short, string. So I've given you all of mine, but the problem is most people will use a major system, but I don't know 100 different people, actions, adjectives, and objects for a major system, but you can find them out on the internet in the wild. But I've just given you mine. So 14 to 26, these are the ones I use for hearts, because 1 to 13 for me is spades, then the next 13 is hearts, then 27 to 39 is clubs, and 40 to 52 is diamonds, because like I said, I doubled up my system. So first I used it for cards, and then I doubled it up for numbers, and then you've just got the rest of my numbers up to 99. Jay-Z is 99 because I couldn't find anyone memorable with the initials NN. I understand. I really struggled with 90 to 99 because it turns out N isn't as prominent in words as I'd hoped it would be. Yeah, so I struggled with N. Some of them don't make a great deal of sense, but they do for me. I've got a silent K, so like 96 is knife for the object because it's got a silent K, so it pretty much starts with an N or at least a N sound. So 99, Jay-Z's got 99 problems, and pi ain't one. So I couldn't think of anyone with NN, so I went for Jay-Z, and it's really stuck. Then there's the memory palaces, which I've already talked about. Attic, balcony, corner, door. So I talk about my internal palace for each place, and it's the same for every one. So for the airport, it's the attic, the balcony, the corner. The same as it is for Yo Sushi, it's also the attic, the balcony. Everywhere for me has an attic, a balcony, a corner, a door, an end. Because it's a city, so everywhere's like a man-made place anyway. I'm going to struggle. I also talked about my nature palace, because my city will only take me up to 5,000 digits, which is more than the point of this book. But my original goal was to do 10,000, so I created another memory palace which had space for 5,000 numbers. So the aquarium, the beach, a cave, the desert, the equator, a forest, a garden, a hill. But the problem is, for them, I'm not going to be able to use the attic and the balcony, because there's no attic in the desert, so I don't know what I'm going to do about an internal system for each place there. Then I've got Pi-lish, chapter 8. Pi-lish means memorising pi by writing out words that are the number of letters that corresponds with the number for pi. So 3 is 3 is 3. How is 3 letters. So my Pi-lish poem starts, how I wish I could calculate pi easily. I think I stole that from somewhere else. But how is 3 letters, I is 1, wish is 4, etc. So you count the number of letters and that tells you the number for pi. So I think I stole the title of the poem, but then I went on to write a poem, how I wish I could calculate pi easily. Tired and weary, silently wandering through equations far in the drifting mind. Number on number, look for his thinking cap. An ominous, confusing digit retreating, my attitude altering. 0. I whispered quietly. I vanish. Gradually the scientist remembers the numbers. Smash is 5 letters. I annihilate every database by advocating battering numbers with precision. So precision is 9 letters, so that takes you up to, I think, the 58th digit of pi. The confusing thing is this poem starts with how, which is 3 letters for 3 point. But when we're memorising pi, we memorise all the digits after. So it should probably be called, I wish I could calculate pi easily. And then that would be for all of the digits after the decimal points. Advocating is a 0 because it's 10 letters. So I say here that if it's a 10, if you're trying to memorise 0, you use a 10 letter word. Then I talk about binary, how to memorise binary numbers. So in binary, you work backwards. So the first slot is for a 1, then a 2, then a 4, then an 8. So if it's a 0, you don't memorise it, or you don't count it, sorry. If it's a 2, then, if it's got a 1, then you do count it. If it's got a 1, then you do count it. That's a 0, so you don't count it. So this number would be 2 plus 4, because you've got a 1 in the 2 and 4 slots, but a 0 in the 1 and 8 slots. So 2 plus 4 is 6. So I talk about memorising binary numbers, how you can treat a deck of cards as binary if you just focus on the black and red. And then you've got all of my notes. And then you're at the end. Then there's just some brain exercises, so some stuff about the Schulte table, the Stroop test, so just how to keep your brain active. And then just a little thank you. And then some references for some other memory books if you want to read them. And then a glossary for some of the terms that I've used in the book. So that is my book, Slice of Pie. I've got 5 copies, so I can give them out at my magic shows. I've got a bit of blurb on the back. But if anyone wants them, I could sell these 4 copies and post them off to you, especially if you're in the UK. They do bend up quite easily, like they're not the highest quality ever, but I'm just going to chuck it in my bag and then I can train on the train. I can train on the train. So I'm going to keep this one. These 4 are still untouched and pretty flat, but I'll be giving them out at tomorrow's magic shows. I'm doing a couple of magic shows tomorrow. I quite like the spine, carries on the picture from the front. But that is Slice of Pie. You've got a few digits of pi on the cover as well. Slice of Pie, the first 3,141 digits of pi, and how to memorise them. Hope you like it. I've pretty much talked you through the system anyway, but if you want the digits of pi, they're included, and with my notes. All right, there you go. Bish, bash, bosh.